And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host, Andrew Johnson. Johnson, the NBA Finals has concluded, and I cannot believe I'm saying this sentence in my entire lifetime, but the New York Knicks are the 2026 NBA champions. They knocked off the San Antonio Spurs in 5 games, the last game concluding last night. And, just about 12 hours later, it still feels surreal to say that sentence, to feel the excitement that I felt these last couple of hours. It probably still has not processed to me what has happened entirely. And it's probably going to take a couple of days for me to even think about what we have just witnessed. One of the better postseason runs we've seen in recent memory.
This isn't one of the better ones, Nick. This is the greatest postseason run of all time.
Yeah, I didn't want to sound biased, but yeah.
You talk about a team that was +1 in the net coming into the postseason, plus 2,200 to win the championship. A team that had lost 2 of 11. I'm sorry, they went 2-9 in the middle of the season, right before the All-Star break.
Right
after they won an NBA Cup championship. There are a lot of people calling for Mike Brown's head, myself included.
I'm glad you said that.
Listen, and I was very upset after those couple Hawks games. I had seen rotations he had never used the entire season. I sit there. I'm a season ticket holder. I watch all the games, or I shouldn't say all the games, as many as I possibly can. If I miss 2 or 3 games here or there,
yeah.
Everyone's I have a life like everyone else does. But if I'm watching 75 games a year, and I know what rotations we've been running the entire year, I don't like experimentation in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I do, however, like callbacks in the playoffs to past rotations against certain teams, which is what Mike Brown did in the pivotal game 4. But we'll break that down in a second here. But you're right, Nick. It's surreal. It doesn't feel real at all. It feels like I'm in a coma and I'm gonna wake up very upset whenever that happens. So if I am in a coma and you can hear me, if this is like you can telepathically read my brainwaves. If I'm in a coma right now, just don't induce me. Like that's it. So we die here.
Yeah, don't wake you up from this incredible.
Don't wake me up. Let me sleep.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as soon as the entirety of this, and we're going to break down the games in just a little bit, but the way the game ended last night and the raw emotion of where we were celebrating the game, the rest of the entire city, all 5 boroughs, it really was. It felt like a uniting of the entire city. Like, there's been some bad times over the last however many years you want to say it, but it felt like this was like the one time, and I feel like a recent memory where I felt like the entire city came collectively together and was celebrating one common goal, and that was this team winning a championship. It was truly remarkable what we have so far witnessed, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more stories we'll see in the next couple of days, considering that there is a parade on Thursday. So I'm sure
10 a.m.
Thursday
on
might be crazy.
Yeah, it's 10 a.m. It's gonna be
They've announced the
downtown
time for it?
10 a.m. So I've got work,
Okay.
Unfortunately. However,
I'm going to try to make my way there.
I would, because I was already in the city for some celebrations, so I feel like I've already had my fair share of it, and I do have important work that is due on Thursday, so don't feel like I could skip out of it unless they make it a company-wide
it doesn't pass. It doesn't pass your office.
It does
right?
not. No, it does not pass my office. It is in downtown Manhattan,
Okay.
right by City Hall, Battery Park. It's gonna go down Broadway.
I gotcha. Well, I'll be taking some
Heroes.
videos if I'm there, so I'll definitely send them your way regardless. But yeah, let's break down, Johnson, some of these games in the NBA Finals and really talk about what happened, because let's face fact, the Spurs, we know that this is only the first of what potentially could be many good years for this team.
See, we say this, though, but we have to acknowledge that a lot of people never went back to the finals. Like,
that's true.
Westbrook never went back to the finals with that Thunder team.
That's
like
true.
We thought the Thunder team was going to own the NBA for the next 10 years.
Yeah, you're right.
So there's a lot of, we can't say it's a guarantee because nothing in life is guaranteed. So when you make it, you got to try to win it.
Yeah, that's a great point, because you're right. The Thunder, it was the exact same thing when they got there in 2012, and they never got back there until obviously as of last year. It was with obviously a completely different core than the one in 2012. So that's a fair statement. So we'll see if the Spurs definitely get back to this point. But it really felt like if they don't, that this was a really good chance for them. Because let's face facts, in each game of this NBA Finals, they led by double digits at one point in the first quarter. They had a double digit lead in every single game of this NBA Finals, and I feel like that's where, if you're a Spurs fan, this frustration comes from. So you go into game one, it was a slow start for the Knicks offense, and that first quarter of the game, they're down after one quarter by 8 points, 27-19. It was a 7-point game at halftime. They were able to make a little bit of a run in the third quarter to tie the game going into the fourth quarter. And then a late surge in the fourth quarter really propelled them to win this game. It was a rough shooting night for Victor Wembanyama. He missed 15 shots in that game. Jalen Brunson really wasn't efficient in this game, 12 of 31, but still was able to put up 30 points in this matchup. And Josh Hart, a big contributor as well for the Knicks in that game. He had 15 rebounds on the night, 13 defensive rebounds. A huge night for Hart on the glass. So some big plays there. Karl-Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby as well made some big contributions, as well as a big bench night for Landry Shamet. So the Knicks, at one point, down by double digits, able to come back and win the game by double digits in game number one. And then we go into game number two, where the Spurs, again, looked pretty solid in this game. Victor Wembanyama was shooting a lot better than he did in game number one. The Knicks came out a little bit flat early on. Jalen Brunson, like we said, going into game one, was not as efficient as he had hoped for. The story of this game, really, for the Knicks offensively to get them back into this game was, again, Karl-Anthony Towns. He was a big monster for them in this game. But Mikal Bridges also deserves a lot of credit for what he did. He pretty much felt like he did not miss most of the big shots he hit in this game. 20 points at 8 of 13 shooting. Cat has 21 at 8 of 12 shooting. Anunoby adding 17 on 5 of 10 shooting. Brunson still adds 20 points. Shamet adds another 13 off the bench. And it's another game where the Spurs had a really strong first quarter. The Knicks dominated them in the second quarter, and they pretty much were able to hold off a late storm because it was at one point a 16-point or 15-point lead, whatever it was for the Knicks in the fourth quarter. The Spurs do make a little bit of a rally, and the Knicks, thankfully, due to a bad turnover from Victor Wembanyama late in the game, after Jalen Brunson missed a free throw, they turn the ball over. Brunson gets it back. They get the lead, that being the Knicks, and then the Spurs would have a chance to win the game, but Wembanyama's shot goes off the mark, and they lose the first two games at home. And for previous history, Johnson, we know that has been good success for the teams on the road, winning those first two games. It has they other two instances, I believe, were the Bulls and I think it was the Rockets. I don't remember off the top of my head. I saw the graphic a while back. It was those two?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I wasn't completely wrong. I think it was the Rockets against the Magic and the Bulls against
I think it was the Bulls versus. Yes. I think it's Phoenix.
Yeah. Because I remember them clowning the inside the NBA guys, Shaq and Charles Barkley about that stat. Right. Okay. So the Knicks take the first two games on the road, and that really felt like it was a dagger early for the Spurs team because, as I mentioned, you have those first two games, you have double-digit leads in those first two games, and you're not able to come away with the victory. So then you go into game three. You're on the road in MSG, and give credit to San Antonio where credit's due. A really strong first quarter, meddled with a lot of, questionable officiating in this game.
Do you want to hear something crazy too, Nick?
Yeah.
And Scott Foster he's been voted the worst referee in the NBA. I'm not. That's not hyperbole. That is real. That is a real stat that he's been voted that way. I don't believe that whatsoever.
No.
Now, with that being said, Nick, games 1 and 5, the only games in this series where I felt like the officiating wasn't bad, and those are games ref by Scott Foster.
Yeah.
There were missed calls in both those games. Don't get me wrong, but overall, the officiating in games 1 and 5 were leagues better than 2, 3, and 4.
I think we know why there's missed calls, and there's a certain Mr. Ford.
We do know why.
Yeah, it's a certain Mr. Ford. But
I feel like Scott Foster did a really good job this series, and I feel like even from a neutral NBA fan's perspective, they would agree.
Yeah, because game 2 was Tony Brothers, right?
Game 2 was Tony Brothers. Yes.
So who was the game 3 ref?
I forget who the game 3. I think it was
Because
Mark
I thought
Davis.
that was Tony Brothers, wasn't it?
No, I think Tony Brothers was game 2. Tony Brothers was definitely game 2, and then game 3 was Mark Davis, and then game 4
Mark
was Zach
Davis.
Sarba.
Right. Yeah, and this one was a mixture of a lot of missed calls. I felt like in this game, this was the game where Brunson got a flagrant foul for a closeout. That would play a big factor for that game. You had foul trouble from Mikal Bridges early in the game where they had to basically sub him out. What was it, 5 minutes into the game itself?
Yeah, and
So
all
he
these
really did not-
games,
yeah,
these games, Nick.
yeah,
Mikal Bridges, Carl Anthony Towns, Josh Hart had to be subbed out within minutes of the game, all receiving 2 early fouls. So it felt like every single one of these games, the Knicks started at a disadvantage.
and they really didn't get much production out of Bridges or Cat after their game 2 performances. So, it was pretty much an OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, those two guys leading the way for the Knicks, and they needed some other contributions. And Josh Hart had a nice shooting night from 3, which you don't really see very often. Sometimes he has those games, sometimes he doesn't. But you got a big, strong performance from Wemby, 32 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. You got a big, strong game as well from Stephon Castle. And the Spurs just felt like they got a little bit more rhythm going in that game. It looked like the team that we saw win 62 games this season. They were able to hold on just late, as the Knicks did make a little bit of a run towards the end, but again, wasn't enough towards the end, as San Antonio takes game 3, 115-111. So let's break down game 4 entirely, because this was the craziest game we've seen in recent
Yeah,
memory.
and I would love to break this down for you, Nick.
I was going to say, I want to hear your experience, because you were there in person to witness this game.
I had the privilege of attending game 4 as a season ticket holder, half season to be exact. So I was only getting one of these games. And this is what I'd always had said, too, because, I pay a very fair price for these tickets. I go to as many games as I can. And when you have the opportunity, and it kind of stares at you, right? Because when these finals tickets went on sale originally, a lot of people don't realize they were going for $2,500 a pop. And for me, it was a no-brainer. Oh, because again, after taxes and everything, and ticket fees, what StubHub will take from you or Ticketmaster will take from you, it's like 50%. So if you're on paper, you're, let's say, okay, it's a $5,000 profit after whatever, it's actually closer to 50%. So if you're thinking you can get $5,000 in profits, it's $2,500. I'm not saying that's not a lot of money. Of course, it's a lot of money, but if you can attend the Knicks finals game or get $2,500, you're going to take the Knicks finals game if you're a fan, right? And then as time goes on, it's becoming more and more evident where it's going up to the point where, Nick, after they won game 2, I'm sitting there with you. Afterwards, I'm staring. Tickets in my section were going for $25,000 a piece.
Yeah.
And it's real crazy, because by the time game time gets for game 4, you can get in the arena for like $4 or $5 grand.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, wow, it really is tempting. But I had the privilege of attending game 4, and this is where I'm going to get to my story. I drive into the city that day because I realized, hey, it's going to be a long day. I work in the office, and I'm going to have to drive home afterwards because public transportation late at night isn't really the greatest thing. So whatever. Right? And I'm looking there, right? I'm having fun. It's a great game, and not really. I'm not really a great game,
unfortunately.
I meant the vibes were good because I had gotten the arena very early, and everyone was there. Like everyone was there in the arena early. I was there 70 minutes early. I'm walking around and I'm looking like, oh my god, like there's Stephen A. Smith, there's all this stuff. Like it's cool, right? Like it's cool to see it because I went to the Eastern Conference Finals with you, as you know, and as the listeners know too. So that was a lot of fun. And I'm just going, I'm looking, whatever, it's fun. And then like you could feel the energy in the building, like build up, right? Like I don't know how loud it was on television, but whatever it was showing, it was not as loud as it was showing.
Yeah, so
the arena was absolutely nuts.
That's the thing I hate about the on-air experience of it. Like in person, I can imagine it was probably loud as ever.
It was definitely.
It was loud.
I could hear myself think.
Yeah, it was loud on TV, but there was no way it was as loud as I expect. Heard on the television. It sounded very loud from that
So
perspective.
the crowd is very into it. They're loud. They're upset about last game. There's a lot. Wembenyama shouldn't even be playing. He missed two flagrants in that game, so he should have been
Mm.
suspended for a game that coming up. So whatever. There's very loud boos, and even when Wemby was warming up, Nick, the crowd was booing him.
Yeah,
It was very loud. They were booing him, and it was funny enough where 70, there's barely anyone in there, right? It was like 78 minutes before him, but whatever 2,000-3,000 people were actually in their seats just hanging out like I was, we were booing him. So the vibes were great. And then that whole disaster class of a first quarter happens.
mm. Yeah,
And it was what it was. There's not much you can really do. But it kind of is a little upsetting because you wait your entire life for this, and that was the product you were getting on the court. And it wasn't really anything to the players. It was the officiating. That was some of the worst first quarter officiating I've ever seen in my life.
yeah, it was bad.
What do you even do from there, Nick?
I think for a lot of teams, it puts them. See, here's the thing. I felt like the officiating was getting to the Knicks early in that game, and you could see it because
They were
Mitchell
frustrated.
Robinson gets the flagrant foul by elbowing Wemby in the face, and you could tell that it was getting to the team because they were just getting, as you said, they were getting absolutely frustrated with how the game was being progressed. Obviously they missed the flagrant the previous game on Wemby, which would have given him one
And
more flagrant.
they missed two
away from
flagrants on him
being-
this game too.
Right, exactly.
And
And they would have, and keep in mind, if he had gotten two flagrant ones or one flagrant two, he would have been or actually no, I'm sorry. If he got two flagrant ones,
one
he would have been
flagrant two.
suspended the next game. A flagrant two would have
Kicked him out this game and suspended him the next game.
yes.
So
It was big.
it was very depressing because that first quarter they're down by so many points, and the second quarter runs around and they're shooting the lights out. So they're shooting at the end of the first quarter. They're shooting 70% from the field, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, this in my head the entire time saying is this is impossible. Like there's no way for an entire game they're gonna shoot 70%. So I just kept on having to tell myself. And Nick, I'm not gonna lie, I considered leaving.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I considered leaving, but I had to kind of talk myself into it. Be like, okay, listen. It's 29 points. I get it. I want a good competitive basketball game. Maybe I can get it here at the end, and we'll just take it from there. That's what I was doing. Okay, let's just take it here one at a time. Let's just wait.
Especially after the Cleveland game too. I feel like you had.
Yeah, that's why I had some faith because I'd seen this story so many times, and it wasn't the same old Knicks story where the Knicks had a large lead and we ended up blowing it. It was quite the opposite.
Right.
So I'm sitting there, and it's, I said, okay, let's just wait. Let's just wait, the first couple minutes, and let's just see how it goes. And sure enough, they come out firing, Nick.
Yeah.
They come out firing, and I think the rest is going to be history from there.
Oh, without a doubt. And I mean, you could sense something was going on in that third quarter. First of all, the Knicks' defense in the second half was tremendous compared to what happened in the first half. It was a mixture of their defense was playing good, but the Spurs also were missing some wide open shots. And you expect it to happen because, as you mentioned, the amount of shooting percentage they had in the first half, that's going to even out in the second half. It had to have because it's just not sustainable for an entire 48 minutes. So that happens the entire way, and you could see slowly progressing them coming back into this game. They were down 27 points at halftime, down as many as 29 in the game, and they cut it to within 15 going into the fourth quarter. And you're thinking to yourself, you know what? A 15-point deficit going into the fourth is really not the worst thing because
we're sitting here thinking, oh, it's doable.
We saw this team, you and I saw this team in person come back from a 20-point deficit in 7 minutes in the fourth quarter. Anything's really possible for this team. So
no, I had a lot of faith going into this game, and the crowd. You know what? I'll give them a lot of credit. No one left.
No,
there were a lot of people who had money to spend on that game, and they could have done anything else with their life because to a lot of these people, $5,000-$10,000. Oh, that's whatever. What? I'm gonna leave. No one left. I say that's kind of hyperbole because I don't know that, but the arena was 95% full. From anything I could see, it didn't look like a single soul left.
And I think the other
Even
thing
the halftime
also,
performance, though, Nick, like the
yeah, even
arena
Wu
was
Tang Clan.
dead for Wu-Tang Clan. It was
Yeah,
dead because everyone was depressed. We didn't know what was going on, and they said Nixon 5, and I kind of laughed. I'm like, he's really gambling right now. Like he's really gambling right here.
yeah,
Now that's going to be an all-time sports moment. Looking back at that years from now, that's going to be an all-time sports moment.
yeah. I mean, it just felt like the stars were kind of aligning for pretty much. You have the performance at halftime. They even said, "You're like, all right, like we're down 27 points. What do you know that I don't know?" And I get it. Like this team has done incredible things the last, what was it, 2 or 3 years. They've had 6 20-point cover behind victories
Yeah, no, they've
in the playoffs. Nonetheless, it just seemed like this wasn't possible considering how not only the Spurs were shooting, but the Knicks just really weren't getting a lot of good, clean shots. It felt like, and they were getting visibly frustrated with the foul calls. But then you see that fourth quarter, they're down 15 at one point. I think at one point they were down 20 in the fourth quarter, and again they started making that run, and it's really a mixture of a couple of different guys doing it. It was Brunson a big fourth quarter. OG Anunoby deserves his flowers, and we'll get to what happened at the end of the game with him, and even Jose Alvarado,
Jose
fantastic
Alvarado.
performance off the
Yeah,
bench.
and this is what I was kind of alluding to before because this is what I was talking about because Mike Brown went deep in his bag. He's like, what beat the Spurs last time? It
I'm
was
trying to
the
think.
it was
The
the double
bench?
point guard play in the
Right,
NBA
right, right,
Cup.
right.
It was Kolek, but this time we got Alvarado, so it was like an
I'm not
upgrade.
gonna lie. I was trying to think of what you were talking about the NBA Cup and the last time the Spurs were in the finals because I was trying to remember that.
Yeah, listen, like it was a complete throwback to it, and by throwback I mean 6 months because Mike Brown I think went into the film room and saw, hey, listen, if we beat him with Tyler Kolek and Jalen Brunson, we played so well. Imagine we got Jose Alvarado now.
And
And
keep in
Alvarado
mind,
had the game of his life, by the way, in that
yeah,
fourth quarter.
yeah,
From a New York City kid, to perform at that level at the Garden, probably undescribable for him.
yeah. I mean, not phased by the moment. He was going up against Wemby a couple times in this series. Um, And he has the nice play against Julian Champagny where he has like the back turn to the basket that he just makes a nice little move towards it to get a layup. A big 3-pointer after the Spurs made it a 7-point game again to put them within 4. And then I felt like I mean you can say it for me, like you can answer this question. It really felt like from how the crowd sounded on the TV, Brunson hits the 3-pointer over Wemby to put them within 1. It sounded like that place was unglued. Like it sounded like, and Mike, what Mike Breen even said it on the air. He said this building is literally shaking right now, and it probably felt
Oh, it
like
was
it in a way.
100%. Yeah, it was 100% shaking.
Yeah, like I mean, an insane shot with the clock winding down, the shot clock to put them within a point. Then they get the turnover force in the next possession, and Josh Hart just misses in a layup because he was trying to go for a dunk, and he couldn't decide if he was going to do the dunk or the layup. They go down the other side. Wemby misses 2 free throws after that, so they get a chance to take the lead. Brunson gives them back the lead. They swap back and forth on. Castle gets fouled a couple possessions later. He goes to the free throw line, puts them up 1, and it puts him in a spot where Brunson tries to go for the go-ahead shot. He misses it. The ball is loose. De'Aaron Fox picks it up, but he made a really bad play, unfortunately, at the very end. He goes up for a layup because he thought maybe he could get past OG Anunoby, and Anunoby gets the block. The Knicks get the ball back, and they're able to call a timeout with 5.8 seconds, and they thankfully were able to get that timeout called. I could probably picture you probably saying, call a timeout, because I was screaming on my TV to call a timeout before Alvarado
I was
almost
just
got
Nick. I was
backcourt
so in. I
violation.
was so in the moment where like I wasn't even processing. I'm not gonna lie. I don't even remember the last shot. I remember OG's tipping. I don't remember that last shot, that attempt.
And Brunson, and I'm glad you brought that up because let's go into that last shot because 5.8 seconds left in the clock. They inbound the ball to Brunson, and Brunson got a clean look. Like he had Wemby and
Yeah,
De'Aaron
and
Fox
I was
near him.
talking to coworkers the next
Yeah,
day who are Knicks fans or I don't know, quote unquote Nick fans. I don't know if it's that. I can't
yeah,
really tell the difference nowadays. And they was like, oh, why would he take that shot? And I'm thinking, well, he was open. He was a little bit deep, but he was open. And if they want a second chance opportunity, or even like if he missed it, they get foul because it's such a close game. You need to take it immediately. You cannot dilly-dally, you cannot wait,
Right.
and that was a veteran move.
And
That was
and I'm
100%
glad you
the
said
right
that
move.
because that's exactly what the Spurs did in game number 2. They took their time with that last shot. They passed the ball to Fox, and I think with 3 seconds left, they finally gave it to Wemby, and he missed the shot. And they had no time to get a rebound
Yeah,
opportunity.
you gotta take it
So
immediately.
that was exactly a perfect deja vu type of moment because then the Knicks take the shot immediately. Brunson hits it off of the front rim, and then OG Anunoby, who was inbounding the ball initially to start the play, goes untouched, gets towards the rim, and somehow is able to tip the ball in with 1.2 seconds left, gives the Knicks the lead. I can only imagine how the Garden sounded when that happened. I
It
was
was
literally
deafening.
jumping. I was jumping up and down at my home watching that game, and just I almost had tears going through my eyes when that went in. I could not believe that happened. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can't get too overexcited because there's still 1.2 seconds left on
I
the
was
clock,
talking to
but there was
random
a
people
chance.
on the bridge, and we all saying the same thing. There's still a second left here.
Yeah, like there's still one more shot
It's
to go
not
in this
over.
game. And and initially I didn't notice this happening, and I'll mention it afterwards. But they inbound the ball, that being the Spurs at the end. They try to get a shot off with Stephon Castle, and a nice play design. I liked what the Spurs did there. It looked like they were going to go to Wemby. They faked the pass to him. They go with the off ball screen to get it to Castle, but Karl Anthony Towns made a huge play on that inbound. He was able to tip the pass and get a little bit of a redirection to where there wouldn't be a clean look for Castle to get a shot up. Shot doesn't go, and the Knicks down as many as 29 points, a 27-point halftime deficit, pull up arguably, and it probably isn't arguably, it's
It's the
the
greatest comeback of all
greatest
time.
comeback.
I think I should stop going to games at this point because I thought after the Cleveland game that's gonna be
Yeah.
pretty tough, hard to top. And like, okay, here's the NBA Finals. I guess this will be
Yeah.
better. And I'm not gonna lie, at halftime I was sitting like, wow, I could have had $50,000, or I could have gone to this game. And I'm sitting like, wow, I should have taken $50,000. And then by the end of that game, it's like, I'm glad I didn't take $50,000.
Which is a crazy sentence, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how you go back to another game. You got two of the most exciting, thrilling conclusions to a basketball game we've seen in recent memory, and that one to an even further extent because at least the Cleveland game went to overtime, and the Knicks pretty much dominated that overtime period. You got a last second tip in by Anunoby with 1 second left, and they were down, and it looked like they were going to probably get blown out of the entire building and go back to San Antonio after winning the first two on the road. They were going to lose the next two at home, and the series being tied up. And they pull off an absolute stunner and win that game in the most improbable fashion possible. And it sets them up with a 3-1 series lead. They go back to San Antonio last night, and I don't know about you. It felt like a mixture. It was a bad shooting night for both teams. It also kind of felt like old, like 80s, 90s basketball
You know
type
what
of
this
era
game was
where
giving me the vibes the entire time, Nick?
mm,
Cavs Warriors Game 7 2016. That was the only thing that was going through my mind because it was such a poor shooting game and it
yeah.
really came down to the wire and they made one or two big plays and that's what they remember. People remember.
And this was another game where the Knicks just again started out cold. Like, they had 13 points in the first quarter. I think they shot 3 of 20 in the first quarter or something like that.
Uh, 4 of 22 actually.
Close enough,
So
but
yeah, close enough, but like it was
it
horrendous.
was it was brutal. And I missed the majority of it because I was on the way back from work. I was listening
Yep.
into the car, and first off, it is tough to listen to the radio because like you want to like see what the shot is or like if it's a good look or not. You can just hear it missed by Brunson or missed by this person. I'm like, well, I don't know. All I'm hearing is a lot of misses
I
right
don't
now,
know
so
what's
this is
going
not
on.
turning out well. But then only down 10. I think that was the biggest point. They were only down 10 points, and then it got a little bit worrying, in the third quarter. They cut the deficit before that at halftime to make it within, what was it, 5-point game going to half, which
That's so.
by all
Nick, I
being,
told you when we were down 10 points at the in the first quarter, I was like, all
yeah.
right, we got him just where we want him.
I also forgot to mention a funny story about game 4. I'll talk about that in a moment after I wrap this up. But at one point in the third quarter, they're down 16 points. So it looked like a lot of things were going dire. I took off my lucky jersey at one point because I was like, you know what? It's not working right now. I did that in game number 4 after they were down 27. So I'm taking this off. It's done tonight. Our friend Grayson went outside to just say, you know what? I'm going to go outside and see if they come back. Sure enough, folks, he did not return inside the bar because the Knicks started to make another comeback. And A big reason is Brunson. I mean, one of the more dominant performances we've seen from one player in a finals game in a very long time. You and I talked about it last night. We know it was conference finals at that point, but we talked about the LeBron 30 points in a row scored against Detroit in '07. But it felt like Brunson just single handedly was bringing them back into this game. Um, Making some clutch shots, making some clutch threes, and the Spurs, they just got ice cold in the fourth quarter. They really couldn't get anything going in. Wemby misses 12 shots in this game. De'Aaron Fox misses 12 shots in this game. Stephon Castle didn't have a field goal made until that dunk at the very end of
Yeah,
the
he
game.
was awful that game.
The only consistent Spur on the night was Dylan Harper, who had a really strong NBA Finals, I will say, for
I
San
think he was
Antonio.
way better than Wembanyama, to be
I
honest with
said to
you.
you that it's the same thing. I said I think he's been arguably the Spurs' best player this entire finals run. It's not been Wemby. Wemby's been good, but he's not been consistent good. And that was the case for Brunson the first two games. He's been fine, but he wasn't like shooting well to
Yeah,
where he was consistent
Brunson
enough.
has to thank OG Ananobi for the first 4 games of his series. I realize, yes,
I'd
Brunson scored
say
30 points, but he was not shooting well. Ananobi,
I'd say the
going into
first
game
two.
5, he was averaging 24 points a game on 75% true shooting.
Right.
That
Well,
is bonkers. For in a
no, I
series where
agree.
no one was able to put the ball in the basket, he was just outstanding.
I only say the first two because Brunson after game two, I felt like finally found the efficiency we've seen. Like he had a really good game three. He had a really good performance in game four towards the end, in the second half especially. But you're not wrong. OG was big in the first two games. So was Cat. So was Bridges. At least for game two wise. So that's really what the embodiment of the team has been. It's these guys picking up their captain, even if he has a bad off night in the first two games. And Brunson paid them back for it in game number 5 with this performance. 45 points on 14 to 27 shooting. Really, he made some clutch shots towards the end. The Knicks get some big free throws as well towards the end from Anunoby, Bridges, Hart, and Brunson. Mitchell Robinson with a absolute clutch rebound. Give credit to Mitchell Robinson too in this game because Karl-Anthony Towns gets into foul trouble again early on in this game. Robinson and Huck Porty, at least for 2 minutes for Huck Porty, but Robinson comes into the game, plays 20 minutes, and has 10 rebounds, including the biggest rebound of the entire night off a missed free throw. Gets
Biggest
the
rebound of
offensive
his
rebound.
career.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And
And he's the
give him his
longest
flowers.
player on the team. And you and I both said it. If anyone was going to get that rebound, he deserved it the most because he's seen a lot of these bad years for this team.
He's seen multiple lottery teams. He's
Multiple
seen
60 loss teams.
multiple 60 loss teams. And for him to soak it all in now, and I don't know what his future holds, but I would love for him to remain a Knick. But I
Yeah.
also, if he's going to go get, someone's going to pay him $30 million, and you know what? God bless him. Let him ride into the sunset on one of his pickup trucks. And once a Knick, always a Knick. So I don't know what's going to happen, but he's earned the right to do whatever he wants at this point.
But with all that being said, they get the big free throws towards the end, and they go up by 4. It's pretty much done from there. This person didn't have a chance to at least try to have an opportunity to tie the game, and they fall in this one 94-90. Another game where they're up double digits, and the Knicks were able to hold on and win the game at the very end. And in a series where they trailed each game by double digits, they won 4 out of those 5 games, and they are the NBA champions for the first time in 53 years. An incredible statement to say. And like I said, it's really a fun time right now being New Yorkers. Obviously, a lot of people don't like New Yorkers, but with this team, it just feels different because it's a team that's been, ridiculed and made fun of and mocked about for how many decades now, and they finally got the monkey off their back. The longest title drought in NBA history, in
3
terms of their
games.
last championship.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
yeah,
it's
but
finally
yeah.
over. Incredible.
Listen, like it's all fun and games until you have to come play in New York. And shout out to the New York fan base too, because that was a road game. That was like a college national championship with the way the
Yes,
crowd was split.
and that's the thing. It was in each series that was the case. It was in Atlanta. It was in Philadelphia. It was in
Did not
Cleveland.
matter.
It was in San Antonio. It was every series. Every single series, it just felt like it.
Yeah, so I don't really know where you go now as a fan, because like there hasn't been a repeat champion now in 8 years, and
8 years, yeah.
can now the Knicks buck that trend?
It will be tough because you have a lot of teams coming back from last season. You know the Thunder will be up there. San Antonio will be certainly an opportunity to be a contender. The biggest question mark, I think, is going to be where Giannis goes this offseason, because if it's to a team that's already a contender, then they're going to be in the mix, of course. But
The rumor is Giannis to Boston. That
I've
is the
heard that
rumor
rumor.
currently.
I feel like it's Boston or Miami if that's the case.
I would agree.
Um, but I don't know. I think as a whole entirely. I mean, I think you just soak this one in, because even if you don't get it done next year, you got it done this year. Like it didn't seem like this was possible for so many years and so many years and so many years. And you
And you know
finally
what? Five
are able
first
to
round
soak
picks
it
for
in.
Mikal Bridges. You could
It's
draft
worth every
4
penny.
All NBA players with those picks now. With those
Yeah.
with those remaining picks, Knicks got championship. It doesn't matter at this point, unless the Nets win 5
And
championships.
yeah,
Does not matter at this point.
and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's really what was good about this team. Leon Rose got a structure there. He had all these other players. I know you're a big fan of Randall and those guys, like Tom Thibodeau as well.
And it is sad,
And
though, seeing that they couldn't win with him. Listen,
right,
it's great that they won championship. It is a little disheartening to see the people who came here at the franchise's lowest point, because Randall came here at its bottom.
oh yeah,
We were rock bottom. Randall came here. We were rock bottom when Tibbs came here, and to see it all happening right now is just incredible.
and you also look at it like this. Unfortunately, had to be worthy sacrifices to get this job done, because without Randall, you do not get Karl Anthony Towns. Without DiVincenzo, you don't get Karl Anthony Towns. You had to trade all those
Quickly
picks
and
to get
RJ
Mikal
Barrett.
Bridges. You had to get stuff to get. Yeah, you're right. RJ Barrett, Emmanuel quickly to get OG Anunoby. You had to pay and give Brunson credit too. He took a pay cut. He got that contract, but then he could have gotten a pay raise. He said, "You know what? I'd rather use the $100 million and try to get more players." And a lot of those players were some of the key bench players you saw during this postseason run.
Yeah, it was a lot of gambling from a lot of different players, and it all paid off.
Yeah,
The biggest gamble in NBA history
yeah.
from a team's perspective.
The fight I was going to mention about Game Four. Shout out to my uncle Greg, who does listen to our show here and there. Um, when they were down, I think it was 25 or something like that. He said He's like, we got them right where we want them.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, maybe, but I don't know if it's possible this time. And as soon as the game ended, I go, oh my god, you literally called it. I could not believe it. But yeah, a crazy time, and a great NBA Finals. It was only 5 games, but every single game was down to the wire, and I feel like this was perfect for the NBA this season. I know maybe people outside New York are not going to say the same, but if you look at the ratings for the finals this season for these 5 games, it was unbelievable viewership for each and every one of the games. And like I said, I think it's going to help the NBA in a way, because when these teams that
These
from these big
marquee
cities,
teams.
right, when these teams do good, it makes the NBA a lot better. It makes the product a lot better. And with the Knicks winning, I think that will help the product, because look at how the last 12 hours have been in terms of, not only the viewership, but look at the merchandise purchases from all these sites trying to get finals gear. Like, it's some of the
Sold out
craziest
everywhere.
things. It's incredible. I was buying stuff last night. It said, 16,000 people have bought this, 17,000, 30,000 have bought this item.
And as Josh Hart said, now we get to play golf.
Yeah. Yeah. You get to enjoy some golf over these next couple months until you get all the way back in October. And I mean, listen, I am trying to keep my credit card away from me at this current moment, because I've done a lot
I've
of
spent
spending
too
in a
much
while.
money on Knicks Finals merch. God help me if St. John's wins a national
St.
championship.
You might need a
It's
loan.
gonna look like a mortgage payment.
Yeah, St. John's wins a national championship in basketball. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be really bad. Not saying that it will be like this bad for New York. Meaning that for Johnson and I, in terms of merchandise purchasing, it will be really bad. More in the case of Johnson, but yeah. But yeah, an incredible game last night, an incredible series, an incredible NBA playoffs. Um, yeah, I don't know where we go from here, Johnson, but I'm just smiling from ear to ear that I can finally say this team won a championship because like I said, I didn't think this was possible when um, you watch this team. Like we've seen some bad teams. I posted a picture last night of me wearing Knicks gear when I was like, I don't know, 8 or something, 7 years old. And at that point, I was like, well, this team really bad at that point. This was the mid 2000s, so that was when they were really bad too. Didn't think it was possible. Did not think it was possible. And here we are.
Anything is possible, Nick. Never forget. If the Knicks can win a championship, anything is possible in life.
That's true. That's true. Um, but yeah, that does it for the NBA season, Johnson. An incredible year. You and I are not done just yet with the NBA. We do have, I think, one more pod coming up, and that's going to be our NBA mock draft show because the NBA draft is not too far along, and we've spoken about it so much that this is the one of the most stacked classes we've had in recent memory for the NBA draft. So I'm looking very much forward to this upcoming draft and seeing where these certain players go. And for us, of course, we would love to see Zuby Ejiofor maybe.
Yeah, and I just as the latest mock draft from SB Nation has him going to the Boston Celtics, so it makes me want to throw up. So I'm hoping that's not the case. Going 27 to the Boston Celtics for Zuby Ejiofor.
Yeah, I think
I think he's a perfect guy for the Knicks. He's a perfect
if you lose
culture
Mitch,
guy for the Knicks.
I think that's a perfect replacement. If that's the case, you were talking about it earlier.
Yeah, listen, I know he's undersized. He's only 6'9", but he's got a 7'4" wingspan, which certainly is going to help. Listen, if he develops a 3-point game too, he could already defend the perimeter in college. So it's not like he's a dumb defender here. He's an excellent defender at the college level. Just needs to hopefully translate to the NBA. But can he maybe coach him up to be like a bigger OG Anunoby? Like, is it possible? Because it's not like OG was lighting it up in college.
Yeah, we saw him and Tom Crean last night celebrating. He was there.
Yeah, absolute legend Tom Crean. I was happy to see him still doing well.
Yeah, a lot of the old coaches, a lot of celebrities and family members, of course, were there in attendance in San Antonio. You mentioned it. It was pretty much, it felt like a Knicks home game almost in a way, with the way fans were cheering in that game. But like I said, it felt like that a lot this entire postseason. But we'll see you in a couple of weeks for the NBA mock draft show. And then Johnson, for us, I think we'll be off for a little bit until I believe the next one will be after that will be the MLB All-Star break.
Yep.
And then we'll be right back into football. So we're getting closer and closer to the NFL's and college football season too.
Yep. One day at a time, Nick.
One day at a time. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. 2025-26 season has come down to a conclusion, and it is the New York Knicks. I cannot believe I'm still saying it, but they are the NBA champions. They get it done in 5 games, defeating the San Antonio Spurs. Can the Knicks break the streak now of the consecutive champion, or the non-consecutive champions, I should say, from the last 8 years and get it done next season? Johnson and I will later on in around October get to breaking down that stuff. But as I mentioned, the next time Johnson and I will be back, we'll be doing our annual All Gas No Breaks mock draft show. We'll be breaking down the upcoming 2026 draft class and seeing what each teams will be doing in the upcoming NBA draft. For Nicholas Pavona and Andrew Johnson, this has been the All Gas No Breaks Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week, and congratulations to the New York Knicks.